Alright, so for this video, I'm going to show you guys how you play the game known as the Grasshopper and the Ant. In this game, there's actually two separate modes that you can play this game. You can play the autumn mode, or you can play, which is a little bit more difficult, the winter mode. So those are the two different types of modes you can play, and we have it currently set up for the winter mode. So this is the winter mode of the game. And in the winter mode, if you were to play a 4-player game, this is the setup of the 4-player game. If you were to play this game with just 2 players, you wouldn't have these discs, these red discs in the game at all. So you wouldn't have these in the game if you were playing with only 2 players. And there's even a few provision cards. These are provision cards here. There's a few in here that you would not have in the game as well. So that's something to note. But because I do have it set up for a 4-player game, I've got the correct layout. Anyways, in this game, 1 player is going to start off with 6 of these ants. Okay? They're going to get the ants. They're going to be the ant player of that particular round. Another player is going to get the grasshopper and is going to be the grasshopper for that round. And then in a 4-player game, you're going to have the other 2 players. They're going to be the red ants. And they're going to get these discs instead of these little ant maples here. They're not going to get those because they're the red ants. And they will play a little bit differently from the black ants and the grasshopper for that matter. Now, before we get started, let me just read you the story of the grasshopper and the ant real quick. It's just a real quick little story. It was winter. The ants were drying their wet grain. A hungry grasshopper asked the ants for something to eat. The ants said to him, "Why? In the summer, did not you also gather provisions?" "I did not have the time," said the grasshopper. "I sang melodiously, melodiously. That's a hard one for me to pronounce," he said with pride in his voice. The ants laughed in his face. "Well," they said, "if you were singing in the summer, then dance in the winter." The grasshopper, a hummer, sang all summer. He found himself lacking when the north wind came smacking. There was not one tiny bite of fly or of mite. He went seeking a favor from the ant, his neighbor. He begged her to assist a few grains so he could subsist. "Until the next season, I will pay you," he reasoned. "Before first harvest, my word as an animal, both interest and principal." The ant would not lend things out. This was her smallest flaw. "What did you do while the grain turned to straw?" She poked at the beggar's snout. "Night and day, at every chance, I sang, if you please." "You were singing. That puts me at ease. And now you can also dance." And this is where this game comes into play. The grasshopper who experienced a bummer after the summer was made to feel foolish by this wee ant, oh so mullish. Craving vengeance as an attacker, a plan sprouted in this insect slacker. Follow the ant to some remote field in order to steal her precious yield. The opportunistic grasshopper turned the ant into a pauper. Much fruit of much labor he stole from his neighbor. So proud of himself thereafter, the grasshopper literally died of laughter. Celebrating spoils gained acting as a creeper. One may get harvested by the grim reaper. So that's sort of a theme of this game. So basically, The grasshopper wants vengeance on the ant. Yes, it's true. The grasshopper was lazy. That's the moral of the story, and didn't end up surviving winter because he didn't, prepare for winter, right? But in this story, he apparently survives, and now he wants vengeance on the ant who refuses to share, refuses to help out. And so the ants, as the ant player in this game, you are going to be placing your ant meeples, and they have to be placed sort of like orthodontically adjacent to each other. So they can't be placed like this unless it was like this too, okay? So you're going to be placing them like that. And then after you've placed them, you have these discs to look at, and you're going to choose one of these discs as your path, okay? These discs will remain secret. Yes, they know that you have one of each of the four. They know that. But they don't know which of the four that you're going to choose. The red ants, the other two players playing the game as the red ants, these two over here, they don't know what you're doing. And the grasshopper player doesn't know what you're doing. And so you're going to choose one of these, okay? You're going to set it aside face down. Now the grasshopper, he has to figure out which path you took. So let's say we have the meeples on here like this, for instance. The grasshopper has to choose one of these locations to think. He has to choose one of these. He thinks the ant player chose for their disc. So, like, for instance, they could go there, they could go there, they could go there, they could go there. It doesn't really matter on which of the three, if, like, for instance, these three are the same color, it doesn't really matter which one of those three they choose, because if the disc happens to be this one here, then the grasshopper got it right. And then something happens if that grasshopper gets the path correct. But before that can happen, the red ant players, they also have their discs of their color, and they will try to figure out what the black ant did. They will also be wanting to try to guess the correct of the four paths that are possibilities of where the black ant placed their meeples here. They want to try to guess correctly as well, okay? So that's the point. So they'll take one. Yes, they'll take one of their discs, of their four discs, and set it aside face down, hoping that they guess the correct one that the black ant chose, okay? And then all of the ants, red ants and black ants, will reveal their discs at the same time, okay? So let's see here. The black ant here has this, which obviously isn't the case, but the black ant has this wooden piece here. So it chose this path here. Okay, well, the grasshopper isn't on that path. And so therefore, the black ant would win that round. But however, let's see what these two players chose. Ooh, Ridley, the sea turtle, also guessed the correct path, while Manta did not. And so because one of the red ants did guess a correct path, they would get to take one of these other path cards, because these are all path cards here. They'd get to take one of them from the deck and place it face up in front of them. And that would be their card. Ooh, another thing that takes place in this game as part of the setup, each player gets one of these face up in front of them to start with. So every player is going to have at least one of these to start with. Okay, so that's what they're going to do. So Ridley here, he gets that one, and let's just say he had that one already. Manta had one in front of him. Puddin over here on the right, which is the grasshopper player, he had one. And I have this one. Okay, well, the grasshopper didn't guess the correct path. So I then get this path as well. I'd get to keep that path. So now I have two paths in front of me. We would then replace that next path with a new path here. And then if I'm the player, as the black player, I'm the black ant player, if I can try to purchase one of these provision cards here. Okay? I need the correct patterns to do it though. So I need 2 brown and I need 1 yellow for that one. I need a blue and a picnic path looking one for that one. And I need 2 picnic paths and one of the brown wooden ones for that one. So I have 2. I've almost got enough for this cheese provision card here. I just need 1 more of these, and I'd be able to purchase that card there, that provision card. And if I had enough to purchase a provision card on my turn, then I would be allowed to do so. I would only be allowed to buy 1, even if I had more than enough for more than 1 of these provision cards. I'd still only be able to buy 1 of my choice. I'd get to put it down in front of me. I would get 1 point for this provision card, and then the first player who gets 4 points wins the game. So I'd have 1 point all ready to go. Okay, that's how that would work. Now, even if the red ants have enough of these path cards to purchase these provision cards, they can't. Only the grasshopper and the black ant during that round have the ability to purchase the provision card. Now I keep saying grasshopper, right? Well, here's the question. Here's the thing. If, for instance, the grasshopper had guessed the correct path, the grasshopper would instead get the path cards instead of the black ant. And then, of course, that grasshopper would be able to purchase something if he had enough of the path cards. So that's how that would work. Grasshopper would have to have enough and had to have guessed the correct path as well. That's how that would work. But obviously he didn't, so he didn't get anything this turn. Then that would conclude the round. You would obviously freshen up any cards that were removed from the game. And then depending on how things went down, which would decide who gets to be the black ant player and who gets to be the grasshopper. Now, the grasshopper here would just get transferred to one of these red ant players, probably this guy here on the right. He would get the grasshopper, for instance, and then the player who was recently grasshopper would get possibly, I guess it actually depends. So because the black ant player did successfully get a path card, at least one, these would pass on to the grasshopper. So the grasshopper player would now be the black ant player, and so that means they would get all of these black ants here. Okay? Then the grasshopper would move here to Manta, and then obviously the red ants would move around. So now I would be a red ant player, and Ridley over here would still be a red ant player. Manta would be a mantis would be the grasshopper, for instance, and Puddin would be the black ant player. And that's kind of how that would work. Now, here's another thing. If the grasshopper had won the card and the black ant player was not able to get any of these cards because he lost it to the grasshopper player, then that means I would still get to keep these black ant meeples, and I would get to do the black ants once again for another round. That's how that would work. Also, because the grasshopper did win that path card, the red ants would not be able to collect a card because they technically still lost to the grasshopper too. They also were technically, attacked by a thief. Because that's basically what the grasshopper is. The grasshopper is basically the thief in the game. Basically is what that is. And the red ants don't steal anything from the black ant. They just get a reward if they manage to guess correctly. While the the grasshopper player is the thief and basically takes the path cards away from the black ant, and obviously prevents the red ants from collecting any reward even if they guessed the correct path. And that's basically how this game is going to work for the winter mode, okay? And they another thing that's really interesting is each of these cards with these unique artwork here. There's 2 of these in the entire set. So if a player manages to collect 2 cheeses of this particular design, then instead of it being worth 2 points, it's actually worth 3 points. Isn't that cool? So if I was to get 2 of these, I would have 3 points, and then I would just need 1 more card to basically win the game, right? That's how that would work. Now, with that said, another really cool thing that's interesting, when you pay for cards, if you have exactly 3 cards in hand, and you use all 3 of them, or 2 of them, depending on how, because this one's only costing 2 here. If you pay for a card, a provision card, and now you have no more path cards in front of you because you used them all up, you get 1 free path card from the deck to place in front of you. So that's really cool, right? You get to do that too. I really like that aspect as well. So for having good card management, you get rewarded. So that's another cool aspect of this game. Now this was how you played. This is how you play the winter mode. And so for the next video, we're actually going to do a little playthrough, not a full playthrough, mind you, but just a demonstration of how this is actually going to work realistically. Now, since obviously I would win every time if I look at every single of these chips and choose, I am going to look at the one I chose. Well, no, actually, I'm not going to look at the one I chose at all. So I'm not going to look at these or those. And then the Grasshopper is also going to guess. So I'm going to guess, we're all going to guess, and we're going to see who wins the guessing game, I guess. Because that would be the most fair way of playing this game solo. So we're going to show you how this works in the next video. And then after that, I'll show you guys how you play the autumn mode, which is a little easier than this mode. Oh, also, before we continue on, I want to also share with you, there are extra cards in this game. These are special cards here. This is for expert players. So this is a variant that adds to the winter mode that makes it even harder. So you only play with these once you're an expert. So we won't go over how these work either. But I just thought I'd let you know that these are for that. So don't worry about playing with these anytime soon if this is new to you. Alright, see you guys in the next video.